I'm not that technologically advanced. That's right, so you're getting old. That's right. Don't you forget it.
Acrobat?
Makes me older. Makes me older, and I'm okay being old, Jack. I lived a long time.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting for March 22nd, 2021. I call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Strauss.
Your Worship, just for clarification, under delegations, should it not say that Minister Hunter will be by Skype or whatever it is, rather than he's not being in person?
You know what, I'm not 100% sure that you wasn't actually, but we have that clarified. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I think he's going to be attending by Zoom. Is that right?
All right, Mr. Roy.
Initially, I thought he would be present, but is he coming by Zoom? I'm not very sure. Maybe Ms. Vanham, can you clarify that end for me?
Mr. Orwa, through the council, we sent Minister Hunter the link for the go-to meeting, and so he's able to come that way.
All right.
So I thought that he was attending.
Okay, but does it have to say that in the minutes, or it doesn't? No. So it's good the way it is.
I guess it's
Okay. All
just
right.
to clarify when it comes up.
Okay.
We'll do that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Again, adoption of the agenda as presented. Councillor Garner.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can make that motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1, minutes of special meeting in council March 3rd, 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, before you is the special meeting of council minutes for your consideration.
All right. Thank you. Any questions arising? Changes? Someone prepared to make the motion? Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council adopts the minutes of the special meeting of council held on March 3rd, 2021 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.2, minutes of the regular meeting of council March 8th, 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Again, His Worship, you have council meetings for March 8th for consideration, please.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, will make the motion that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on March 8th, 2021 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, business arising from minutes. There are none. Item 4.1, proposed automated voting system information. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship. So this item has been requested to be brought back for council further consideration, and probably I'll request Ms. Vanham to provide some additional details for council.
All right, thank you. Ms. Van Ham.
Good afternoon, Council. Thanks for having me back for the opportunity to further explain the automated voting system. So this was originally brought to you at your February 22nd meeting that administration was asking for council's consideration for the system for the tabulators. It was defeated at that meeting, but we're bringing back some additional information. There were some questions related to security and other options.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point of order, please. Since this has only been 2 months since it was on the agenda, or less than a month, or less than 2 months, is this legally before council without a 2/3 majority?
You know what? That's a good question, Councillor Beckert. I think it's suggested in the motion recommended, if we go that route. It does cover that, but certainly we could do that beforehand if all are more comfortable with that. That may be more appropriate, all things considered, actually. Councillor Beckert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The correct way to do is to hold a vote. It requires 5 people to vote in favor, please.
All right, so basically all I need to ask for is and ask for recorded vote in that case as well, are all or the majority of council members in favor of this particular topic going forward on today's date. Councillor Strauss?
Worship, there is a fashion motion here that I can read out, okay? It's number 2, notwithstanding council's decision made at its February 22nd, 2021 meeting to defeat the proposed automated voting system bylaw 6-2021 in accordance with council's procedural bylaw 20-2018, section 4, council waives section 6.7.e and agrees to consider the proposed automated voting system bylaw 10-2021 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now. Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. Van Ham. Please continue.
Thank you, Council. Okay, we've put together a little bit of a slideshow presentation for council for your consideration, and there's a question section at the back, so please feel free to ask anything that you would like at that point in time. Okay, so there was some discussion about what actually did that bylaw present. So that bylaw presented the wish of administration to use a vote tabulator at the 2021 election in particular. So the vote tabulator records and reads the ballot, how it is marked. So we'll still be using paper ballots for the electors to mark. And then basically it's like a scanning machine that just scans what each elector's wishes are and tallies that for us. So these systems have been proven to be precise, very easy to use for electors, and capable of generating final election results very quickly at the close of polling. So administration has looked for quite some time, starting in July of last year, at different companies that this software or this electronic availability is available from, for the vote tabulator specifically. So it's a Canadian-based software that's offered by Election Systems and Software, and it's been selected by administration because they are the leader in the field. And when we polled our Alberta municipal clerks, there are 29 municipalities that are using it, and approximately 62%, which is 18 out of the 29 municipalities, are actually using ES&S. So what does the vote tabulator look like? So this has been included in your agenda package, and the tabulator itself, you can see that there's a slot for, the fourth one down says ballot card slot, and that's where the elector will insert their ballot, what they have chosen, and basically the tabulator reads it. On that screen in front, it says if your ballot has been accepted or not. If there's a problem with the ballot, if the elector doesn't, color it all in properly, or they decide not to vote, that does happen, then it will say, do you want to have another chance to vote? It'll give an error, and then the returning officer has a chance to ask that of the elector to make sure that their ballots are counted. Okay, so the sole purpose of the tabulator is just counting the submitted ballots and then storing them after they have been counted. And in the bottom portion there, that is actually the storage unit. So everything is locked on the tabulator until, just the same as the regular ballot boxes were at every previous election. Everything is locked until the returning officer, the close of polls, and they're ready to count. Okay. So, like I said, paper ballots will still be used. And now we're going to see how to vote. Do we have sound, Val? Okay.
Carrie blew it up.
That's very possible. I will stay away from the tabulators.
This is terrible timing when you're trying to sell on the electronic voters.
Well, maybe I'll just continue at this point in time. Okay. So this election, the 2021 election in particular, were posed for is more ballots than we ever have in the past. So there's quite a few referendum questions. Is it ready to go? There's quite a few referendum questions that the Alberta government is proposing. Thanks, Al. So we haven't had that before. There's also going to be proposed to be a Senate election, as well as the mayor and council ballots and the 2 school division ballots. So that's quite a few different ballots. So let's give this another try.
When you check in, a poll worker will issue you a ballot. Take your ballot to an available vote booth and mark your choices. Review the selections you marked on the ballot. When you are satisfied with your choices, take your ballot to the DS200 tabulator. Insert your ballot into the secure tabulator. Your ballot can be inserted in any direction. Do not fold your ballot. The display screen will notify you once the system has successfully captured your vote. A thank you for voting message will appear to confirm tabulation. Consult with a poll worker about any other messages. Thanks for watching. See you at the polls.
Okay, good. So like I said, there's a minimum of 6 ballots. We're anticipating 8 potentially. So having at least 6 ballots actually increases the time required to count the ballots by 500% compared to the previous elections. So faster results is what we're hoping for from 2017. We can expect. So at the 2017 election, the results weren't posted until 11:34 p.m. that evening. Polls closed at 8, as you're aware. And that was only for the mayor and councillor ballots. So there were some acclamations that were involved with that one, and it still took that long. So a tabulator is poised to have results within minutes of the polls closing. I want to highlight the town of Coaldale had their election results from what their municipal clerk within 10 minutes of the polls closing, so it was very, very fast. So there was some questions at the last municipal election, and that's why we started investigating this in particular, is why is it taking so long compared to other municipalities in the surrounding area? And so that is how long it takes with the amount of poll workers and the amount of ballots cast. So COVID brings us to another adventure with the election. So we've been speaking with our health and safety officer and had her input just because there is a lot more considerations than we normally have to do for other elections that we have had in the past. So we're proposing is going to reduce the shared touch points quite significantly. It'll also be very safe for our election workers, and they don't have to touch multiple resident ballots, multiple times. So the reduction of the workers also, the workers will be have to be in masks for the entire time, if that is what is happening, if we're in the same state we are right now, and anticipating around 2,500 electors. So that's quite a while for somebody to be in masks. A lot of the hours that I reviewed from the last election were anywhere between 9.5 to 13 hours per worker. Okay. So our health and safety person is also there. They are suggesting that we move to tabulators, at least for this election, and give it a try because of the reducing the number of touch points and the concerns that were listed. Additionally, by having the elector put their own card in the tabulator, that also saves another touch point. Okay, so these are the 29 municipalities that we surveyed that are using the election technology for the tabulators. And you can see there's a variety of large municipalities as well as small municipalities throughout the entire province. So who touches the tabulators? So I've touched on that a little bit, no pun intended. The voters will have a chance to insert their own ballots into the readers or have the trained election staff do it for them in their presence. So that can be an aid for the electors as well. But only there's certain requirements that have to happen before these tabulators, just the same as the previous elections. In the ballot boxes, we would make sure that there's no other ballots in those boxes, the paper boxes, before they're sealed at that point. The returning officer and the deputy returning officer are always in contact with the ballot boxes, are always in view of the ballot boxes. That's the same thing that happens here, only electronically. So there will be a 0 vote display taken at the opening of the polls, and then at the end of the day, the returning officer will generate a final results from the tabulator upon the polls closing. So there are no buttons pressed by the voters. As you can see in the demonstration, there's just solely intake of the voting card, and nothing is pressed. So the only thing is the ballot. Once it's accepted, like you saw in the video, it'll say thank you for voting, and then they know it's been accepted. And the voter has, if there is a ballot that they either intend to spoil their vote or it's not getting counted properly, the screen will give them a display, and they have the opportunity to vote again. Okay, so we looked at the common misconceptions that are out and about with tabulators. So the tabulators destroy the ballots after reading them. That is false. After reading the ballot, it is stored in the secure department underneath the tabulator, as you can see in the first video in the picture. The municipality has always been required by law, in accordance with the Local Authority Election Act, to keep the ballots for a certain period of time, and that's in regards to recounts or judicial orders. The tabulators can be pre-programmed with additional votes before polls open or added after they close. So as with ballot boxes, that would be committing election fraud. So as mentioned previously, the returning officer will do a 0 poll at the beginning of polls open, and then they will do a final tally at the end of the voting. Using the wrong type of marker could invalidate a vote when read by the tabulators. That is listed as partially true. So we've been working with the election company, and there is a certain marking instrument. It's a ballpoint pen, just a regular ballpoint pen, that works better than some different kinds of pens or pencils. So that would be something that administration will be ordering in, as well as it'll be one point of each elector will have their own pen anyways because of COVID, and that's some of the restrictions that we're looking to implement. And that's some of the things that we're looking to implement with the restrictions on. So there's less touch points that way too. There's no need for scrutineers if the tabulator is doing all the counting. That's false. Candidates are always allowed to have scrutineers. That's based on the Local Authority Election Act. So employing the use of the voting tabulator doesn't change that right. It is the candidate's right. Okay. Someone could come in and vote multiple times and the machine wouldn't do that. So electors previously have always had to sign a declaration, and the Local Authority Election Act hasn't changed in that regard. So they are signing that they are voting once. This is the only time they're voting. And so that doesn't change things with the use of the tabulator. The tabulator can be tampered with if left unattended. Besides the multiple security, physically and electronically that are installed into the tabulators, there will always be election staff there. And in fact, there will be someone from ES&S to sit that whole day, spend the whole day with us at the election, as well as an oversight. Okay. And then another misconception is there was allegations of fraud in the recent USA elections, and some states used tabulators. That's false. The U.S. Attorney General has stated that the Department of Justice and Homeland Security investigated the allegations, and they found no proof of election fraud in the 2020 election. Okay, so some securities. We've got another video for you. I hope that it works better than me pressing the first one. I just want to draw your attention. In this particular video, they've been done by the ES&S company, which has a company in the US and in Canada. And so it shows, that's why you're seeing the US logo on it. It is a Canadian subsidiary, also located in Toronto, or in Ontario rather. So, but we'll only be using the electronic tabulators, and this one also shows the voting machine. So just as a heads up for that.
Today, there's no bigger area of focus and no bigger concern about elections than the security of each and every vote. Over the next few minutes, you'll learn about layers of security that protect elections and the extreme measures that exist to ensure your vote is counted the way you intended it to count. All on election systems and software voting devices. 6 layers of security exist within ES&S modern voting devices, and all of them are active in every step of the voting process. It starts with physical controls, including the storage and care of units prior to election day. Every election office that uses this equipment is encouraged to lock it down extensively, using cameras and controlled access.
But ES&S ensures that every machine is its own lockdown fortress. For example, this unit can have up to 10 locks that restrict access to every part of the machine. On top of that, seals, each with their own unique serial number, also ensure security. If a seal is broken, it can't be replaced without detection.
And that's just physical access. Internally, these machines are programmed to do one and only one thing: elections. Only federally approved and independently tested software is installed, and it's the only thing that exists on these machines. Tucker, what are you doing in here?
Sorry to interrupt again, but these machines are never, ever connected to the internet.
Excuse me. In addition, all of the USB flash drives that are used to load elections onto the voting systems are uniquely created, and they're the only USB devices that can be recognized by these machines. Any other external device plugged into a port on one of these voting systems will not be recognized.
Which is the perfect time to talk about encryption, or how we scramble the data. Each of these modern voting devices uses data that is protected by 256-bit encryption. So, how hard is it to crack 256-bit encryption? Well, if everyone on the planet, and that's approximately 7 billion people, if they all unleashed a brute force attack using today's computer technology, it would take them close to 77 septillion years. It's like 77 million times a trillion times a trillion. Let's just say it's a really long time.
Tucker, we need to move this along.
I get it. Keep going.
Even beyond the encryption is the integrity of the data validated alongside it. The machine compares the digital signature with the encrypted election data to confirm it's trustworthy. If even one byte of data is changed, the machine cannot be used for voting and shuts down automatically.
So, this is the equivalent of changing just a single letter in this dictionary. The machine recognizes that tiny change and said, "This ain't happening." I interrupted again. Please go on.
Audit logs and paper trails are another layer of security in the voting process. Every administrative action that takes place on the machines is documented, digitally signed, and cannot be altered. Later, this is combined in a database from all machines used in the election. So it's possible to see exactly what happened at an exact time at a precise location on a specific machine. This does not include information about the specific voter or their selections. With the advancements in election technology, there's even more security for election results. Each polling location produces not just one, but 4 backups of the results. First is an encrypted USB flash drive that contains all of the information and results from the election. Second is a backup USB stick that's an exact duplicate of the first one. It remains in the machine under its own lock and key. Third is the printed results report that summarizes the results from the machine that counts and records the votes at that location. And fourth are the paper ballots themselves. The best part? After an election, all of these can be compared against one another to verify the integrity of the election. It's auditable. All of this means elections with modern solutions like these are more secure than ever before.
But we haven't even told him yet about ballot security, where every ballot is tracked throughout the day by trained poll workers who make sure that the number of votes cast matches with the number of voters.
Tucker.
Or about the ability to do risk-limiting audits by pulling a sample of ballots and inspecting them for accuracy against the cast vote record.
Tucker.
Or that the scanning technology precisely locates and evaluates each mark to ensure accurate tabulation. Or that election systems are run on a hardened environment.
Tucker, we said a few minutes.
Okay, I get it. But if you want to know more about these topics, check out... Nope, you know what? You tell them.
Oh, thank you. To learn more about these topics, contact your local election authority.
Okay, so reviewed, there were the physical and system access, the system application controls, encryption, validation, signatures, and the audit report. Are there any questions? Thank you for listening. That was a little bit of a long presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Towns.
As you know, Mr. Mayor, I was in favor of this first time. How many tabulators are we purchasing or thinking about purchasing? You call them tabulators. That's an S. How many?
Yeah, we had originally thought of 3, but when we looked at the layout of the community center, we did a walkthrough a couple of weeks, last week, maybe the week before. We're thinking potentially 4, just for the flow.
Per
So
tabulator.
we're not purchasing them. We are renting them. So they were around $8,500 for 3 tabulators. So I would anticipate another $1,500 to $1,700 for an additional 4th tabulator if we go that route.
So we're talking $10,000 for one election.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't own them, we bring them back.
Pardon me?
We don't own them, we bring them back.
Yeah, they're rental. They will be shipped to us. Yeah. The technology changes so much that there's no point in owning them. So.
Free?
Pardon me?
Can we get away with 3?
To test one, you mean, or to?
No, 3. Can we get away with 3 of them? You said maybe 4, but can
Yeah.
we get away with 3?
We can get away with 3, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Chavez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Your Worship, to administration. How are off-site votes tabulated with this here? Like, because Clearview Lodge, the different places that votes are taken, how are they tracked and put into the system?
So we could still use the, like, are you talking for, like, say, for instance, at Clearview Lodge, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that, like, is elections people, they go in there in Lindenview for the people that can't get around, and so is the same system used there, or how is it?
Yeah, so in speaking with the returning officer, there really wasn't that many votes taken at those facilities the last time. So our intention, or the intention of the election team, is to take a paper ballot box, and then they are sealed once they're, like they were previous elections, and utilize a paper ballot box for those, as same as the incapacitator elector as well.
So do they use so then are they brought back then and put into this machine, they're tabulated, or are they tabulated manually then?
No, they'll be brought back and put into this machine to tabulate, and they'll be held in the vault here under seal as they have been in the past.
So it's the same form then that's used off-site as well as on-site?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Bruin.
I think, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Ms. Van Ham pretty much covered it. What about early voting? Then that same procedure, you'd seal votes and...
Yeah, so we haven't settled completely on an advanced vote yet, but we're thinking for 4 days of 1 week. So yes, exactly, just to try to stave off any, thoughts of COVID and, making sure that people aren't lining up and that kind of thing. So
Would they be using the machine then, or just filling in ballots?
Yeah, and that would be a decision, we could go either way. We could do paper ballots at that point in time, or we could use the machines. And that's why we were thinking of potentially a 4th machine that maybe might aid in the advance vote.
I think last election there was a lot of early voting, if I recall. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering how we handled that.
yeah, we're hoping that will be successful again this year for sure.
Right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Ms. Van Ham. I understand from the last time we discussed this about a month ago, it's already in budget for about $8,000, I think was mentioned. Is that correct?
So council approves the operating budget, and with that, in every election year, there is an election budget already set out. So yes, with the council's approved election budget and with the negotiation with the school boards to undertake their election, the difference in pricing that we are negotiating with them because we wanted to move towards the tabulators, that is considered. It also will consider less staff being involved at the end of day for tabulating all the votes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, someone prepared to make a motion. Councillor Towns.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that council accepts the information presented in the relevant related to the automated voting system tabulators for information purposes and directs administration to bring a proposed pricing to our next the 2 council meetings from now, whatever that date is, April the 19th.
That's the actual Monday date. Okay. All right. All right. Perfect. Any other questions, discussion? Motion on the table. Councillor Chavez.
Your Worship, just for clarification on Mr. Tam's motion, we already have the figures for. I don't know why they would have to bring back a cost factor when it's already. We've already got the cost factor put in. So could you?
I can explain that because they had a cost factor of 3 at $8,500, and they're now talking 4. That maybe is some more. I would like to have a clarification if it's going to be $8,500 or $10,000 at the next election.
Councillor Tams, perhaps we could direct administration to go with the 3, and if Coaldale could have their tabulators done 10 minutes after, perhaps an extra 10 minutes for that fourth tabular, then we could have ours ready at 20 after 8. So then, are you willing to withdraw and repurpose your motion then, so that they can proceed?
Yes, I am. Yep.
You'd like to withdraw your original motion?
I will withdraw my original motion, and council accept the information presented and related automatic voting system tabulators for information purpose and directs administration to have 3 tabulators for the next election.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not to nitpick, but why is the word for information in there when it doesn't need to be?
We just had a presentation, so it is information.
Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I disagree, Councillor Tams.
Good, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if it's necessary for us to direct administration to decide on 3 machines, or whether we should leave it up to administration. And I mean, if they're the ones organizing the election, I have full faith in their competence as to how many tabulators we would need.
All right, thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo exactly what Councillor First says. I think that's up to the election committee. If you need 4, get 4. We've got it in the budget, use it.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Sure. They had, I believe that they had, administration had put in $8,500 into the budget to do this. So let's stay with their $8,500 and let's approve this and go on down the road with the 3 machines, and we'll see how it works out for this year.
All right, thank you. Councillor Towns, 100% comfortable with that motion?
I'm still
right,
comfortable.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4.2, Trail User Groups, Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship. So this is just a follow-up of a request from Council to bring back some information. And I would request Ms. Olstrap to present it back to Council.
All right, thank you. Ms. Olstrap.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I do believe there's some trail, the groups out there, Trail 77 and the Tabor Riders group as well out there. So they may pop in, but so during the February 22nd council meeting, council made a motion that directs administration and the trail user groups to provide more information from joint user groups from the parks and to bring back some information on insurance liability for the town. In your package, we have provided council with some information from 6 different municipalities, three of these municipalities have trail etiquette on how to share the trails to keep all parties safe, and 3 municipalities that have bylaw around livestock and recreation areas. Administration has also provided some information on liability insurance. The town may be potentially increasing its liability exposure due to the duty of care by expressly allowing the activity. So administration is seeking direction from council and to direct administration to update bylaw A203, which is regulations of parks, boulevards, and sidewalks.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments arising? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Ms. Ostrop. So administration is recommending the update of the bylaw to allow for horseback riding, or to, can you clarify that?
That's where we're seeking the direction from council. Okay. Brooks, Medicine Hat, and Coaldale, they have the bylaws against the livestock within their bylaws. And then the other 3 municipalities, there was no bylaw, there was just the etiquette on the trails.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both groups agreed to the original agreement, and why not stick with that? I think we're beating a dead horse.
Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Councillor Firth, your question directed at Ms. Ostrop was that does administration recommend? I don't think you're recommending anything. Is that correct, ma'am?
We're looking to council, yes, for direction, and then we can update that bylaw as well.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you. I actually had a follow-up question. So we need to update the bylaw in order to allow or to disallow the horseback riding?
And I think that's where we're seeking from council. So it could be either or.
Okay, but it'll need to be updated either way.
Yeah. So if we want to allow for them, we can write that in that bylaw as well, with the trails and stuff like that. And then if we don't want to allow, same idea. We'll update that bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, to administration here. I have a couple of questions. From Pavan Park, are the horses allowed on the same trails as the walkers and the bikers?
Sorry.
No.
It doesn't sound like all trails are allowed to be utilized by all 3. There's designated for the horses. For where or what trails, I could not find that information, but I can definitely seek it out. But there was some shared and non-shared.
Okay, because the picture here shows the horse crossing a trail. So, and it doesn't, nowhere in here did I see which trails are utilized by both. And the other question is here from Kananaskis. It says equestrian trails typically have a clearing width of 2 to 4 meters and the final tread width of 1.25 meters. So does that mean that the horse trails are 8 feet wide?
That is what they had said, yes. They're wider than the regular biking and walking paths.
So now, of course, the question is our existing trails, are they wide enough to accommodate to be an equestrian trail? I'd like to know the width of the existing trails out at the trout pond, and I guess some of the delegation may be coming. Maybe they could answer that question for me. The width of the current trails, are they 8 feet wide to accommodate equestrian?
Who are you directing that to, Councillor Strauss?
Well, I guess the delegation that's arrived here that was supposed to provide us with the information. I don't know if Ms. Ostrop can answer that, or if you need to go to the trail riders.
I might need to go to the trail riders for the width of their trails.
Okay.
This camera
mind repeating the question, Joe?
Here from Alberta Parks from Kananaskis, they're saying that the equestrian trails typically have a clearing width of 2 to 4 meters, which is close to 8 feet, and the final tread width of 1.25 meters. So are the trails, are they currently wide enough to have the equestrians, your current trails, are they this wide?
A lot of our trails are anywhere from 2 to 4 feet wide.
So they're not wide enough. So then you'd have to widen them out to allow for equestrian animals.
Certain areas, yeah, would have to be widened out.
All right, just to clarify, that was 2 to 4 feet or 2 to 4 meters? It is.
So what our group has been trying to build is called single track trails, and that's about that 2 to 4 feet wide.
2 to 4 feet
wide.
Okay, so just over 1 meter, 1.5 meters max. All right, Councillor Thames?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. And it comes back to where council's seeking advice. And back in February 22nd, 2021, Councillor Strovis directed administration and the trail group users to provide more information from joint user groups from the parks and to bring us some information on insurance liability for the town. And in this whole package that we have received, I do not see the insurance information. And we can talk about signs and trail width and everything else, but where is, if the trail riders, the bike trail riders have insurance and the horse trail riders have insurance, where is the town's liability? And you had said earlier that we might have to increase our liability. That was not the question from Councillor Strovis that was given back to us to look at. So I would like more clarification on, do we have proper liability insurance, yes or no? And that might have to come from John or Gary. Probably John. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Mr. Owa?
I think that question was addressed, and if you scroll to page 8, I think there's some details there. Because we did send the information to our insurance group, and protection in the MGA may protect the municipality if a horse is injured, but not if the horse injures someone. And I think
page 8.
Just keep on scrolling.
Thank you.
Just past it. Keep on coming down. There's a subheading there: insurance, liability insurance. Keep on going, Al.
Gotta keep going down, Al.
Because I think as far as the insurance goes, say the town may be potentially increasing its liability exposure.
John, appreciate that.
And I think that was the direction we're getting from the insurance company after providing all the details as requested by Councillor Strovis.
Sure.
Would you like me to read this, Your Worship? I have it in front of me all highlighted.
Sure.
Okay, liability insurance says protections in the MGA may protect the municipality if the horse is injured, but not if the horse injures someone. As far as insurance goes, the town may be potentially increasing its liability exposure duty of care by expressly allowing this activity. If the town fails to properly enforce safety around this, then we are immediately opening a window for potential third-party litigation against the town. In addition to this, one must assume that not all individuals purchase insurance for their animals. Therefore, it would be quite hard to make sure they are properly insured while riding their horse on public pathways. This may end up the responsibility of the municipality to pay damages if someone is injured and are unable to collect damages from the animal owner.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you. Just previously, we were talking about trail width. I believe the two groups that have come together have identified trails that are appropriate to be shared by horses and bikers and hikers, and that Kananaskis is only one area. So I don't think the 8 feet wide is a requirement. I think that's Kananaskis. That's how they deal with it. But I know I've hiked on trails in national parks that allow horses, and they are certainly not 8 feet wide. And the section that you just read, it says, if the town does not properly enforce safety. So I'm wondering, what did they mean by properly enforce safety? Like, if the town didn't sign it? I suppose that question is through to administration.
Thank you,
what would
Mr.
be
Roy.
properly enforcing safety?
I think from the insurance standpoint, safety here means that everything should be in order to all the users. And if they are not safe whenever they're using the trail, then the exposure is there. So in this case, it could be a wide range of issues in terms of safety happening down there when they're riding these horses.
All right, just to follow up on that, Mr. Rowe, I guess I don't see anything that was covered. See, that's from our insurance company, is correct? Is it not? So I don't see anything that's covered how Kananaskis, Lethbridge, or Edmonton deal with that as far as their own insurance there. Did I miss something there, or is that not covered?
Yeah, we only gave what the town's insurance
Okay.
liability.
So I guess we can't say for sure how they're dealing with that, but obviously they've looked at that side and are taking that into consideration. So that may be something we need to clarify, how others are allowing horses to deal with that accordingly. But that's an important piece. There's no doubt. But I think this is just one side of it for sure. Councillor Chavez?
Yes, Your Worship. I'm not sure how our local community bylaw officers are going to be able to go out there and properly police and enforce this, because then they'd have to be on bikes or on horses out there and seeing if people have the proper gear and are maintaining the proper distances and whatnot. I think in that area, because the nature, it's in the coulees, it's not flat pathways. I think, enforcing that to a safety standard would become a logistical nightmare for our bylaw enforcement officers.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I question whether there is any more potential for danger on a horse than on a bike. I mean, there's an inherent danger in any recreational activity. Like, kids play on a playground. I'm like, oh, they might fall off the monkey bars. Okay, well, let's tear out all the monkey bars then. Let's not allow anybody to do anything that isn't completely bubble wrapped. I think if these two groups have come together and have decided that they can coexist on these trails, that we at least allow them the opportunity to try.
Right, thank you. Councillor Towns?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comment is, we started with a bike group and gave them $5,000 and agreed to give them $5,000 for a number of years, as long as they belonged to an association, had membership in an association, had liability insurance for the town. And it says here in this thing that we're assuming that the horse riders have personal insurance, and I think assumption is not going to be the best way to do this. Now, if they're a registered group like the Trail Riders, and I believe, and Mr. Van Gies can probably explain that to us better than I can, because I don't know that for a fact, that they belong to an association and have insurance for this. And I would also like to hear from the Horse Riders Association if they have insurance that covers the liability of town. Now, there's always some liability that could be ours, but if they belong to a group, they're a registered group, and have done their homework and done what they're supposed to, then I have no problem that two coexist. But if they do not have it, then I think we have to stick with a group that has it, that has liability insurance, that identifies the town as we're not the problem. And my only concern is not that they can't get along. My only concern is if something goes wrong, we are accepting the liability, and that's not correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
And with that, maybe both of them can explain.
I'm just going to ask Mr. Van Giesen or Mr. Ziegler, you prepared to speak to that?
Oh, Trail 77 is a not-for-profit group. We've approached you guys last year. Some of the things that we wanted to do were supply you guys with insurance, and we have that. Don Phillips has our insurance forms and the stuff that we have. So for group events, our members are covered when we are out there using your guys' trails or building or maintaining the trails.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
So SATRA, Southern Alberta Trail Riding Association, we are a non-for-profit organization as well too. We do have liability insurance for up to $5 million for personal liability insurance. So examples, horses kicking, biting somebody, causing bodily injury, kicks a car, somebody else holding a horse, the horse causes damage to that person that's insured. I've talked to the rest of the board members with SATRA about adopting the trail system in Tabor to basically do the same thing as what Trail 77 is doing. We didn't have the authority to speak before for SATRA on behalf of this. That's why we started a different group, the Tabor Trail Riding Group, halfway through this. Because, of course, before it was sort of brought ahead from last summer, SATRA had a ride, and this is where all this started from. So.
Great, thank you. Councillor Garner?
My position on this item is I just can't see myself clear. My common sense screams that we're just asking for trouble when we mix those two groups. The average horse is about 1,000 pounds. Average mountain bike is maybe 30 pounds. I think that Newton's law is going to tell you who's going to win if there's an incident. I can't support mixing these two things together in the same location. It's kind of like saying, you know, we have motocross bikes. Why don't we let them use the rink in the winter? Why don't we let the trail bike guys drive all over the golf course? I think there's a place and a time for everything. And I'm not minimizing your desire to ride in the coulees, but I think there's lots and lots of coulee out there. And I think when we mix this, it's a volatile blend that I can't support.
Good, thank you, Councillor Broom.
Well, we're assuming that we're not going to allow horses there and allow the bikes. So what if we allow the horses and not the bikes? Like, I think they had an agreement. I'm fine with it. I don't know if many of you have worked with horses, but I have, and they don't look for trouble with bikes. If the bike's coming, the horse is going to be aware of it. So I think we're overdoing this.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship. I would be in favor of a separate trail system for horses, and I think we can do the same thing that we did with the trail riders. We can allocate some funds in the coolies to carve out some paths and whatnot. And if they happen to cross one of these paths, there's a sign here in Pavan Park where it's got a horse crossing. I think if they did their due diligence like this, I think we could come to some sort of an agreement where they have separate pathways and are not using the same pathway. So, under that basis, that they've got separate pathways, I would support it, but not on the same paths.
All right, thank you. All things considered, I think the big one is the insurance coverage here that seems to be the biggest concern. And that appears to be covered all the way around and by both groups. And, both groups have done a great job working together and put a lot of hours into this to coexist. And, others, Kananaskis, Edmonton, Lethbridge, they're allowing this, and they're evidently comfortable with that. I can't recall reading anything problematic with any horse usage and group uses as such in recent years. So to me, that's we're promoting recreation in that area. I think it's somewhat hypocritical if we don't have something to coexist with our horse, bike, and runners out there. So in all fairness, that seems to be fair and reasonable somehow to make this work. And I don't know that any of these trails elsewhere have complete singular trails just for horses. I didn't read that anywhere. And I think the same exists here, where you could add some more trails. They're horse designated, but I think there's got to be some middle ground to allow some of both. They've already come to an agreement with what they believe is dual usage, right? And unless I missed something there, I thought both yourself, the runners, and Trail 77 group came to that agreement with your document that spells it out fairly clearly, and seems to be a fair and reasonable solution. So to me, I think that's really the only fair and reasonable way to deal with this, to allow all usage, just with the necessary restrictions in place, and some form of consequence if there's abuse. And I believe that's also covered in the documents there. that the trail user and horse and runner groups came up with. So all things considered, I think it can work, and it's just a matter of there being some flexibility and coming together with some middle ground. Councillor Thames?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that. I have always been willing to listen to both sides of a discussion, willing to change my mind, but in this case, I would like to be assured by administration that both the Trail 77 bike and walker group and the horse group have insurance, and that the town of Taber has acceptance of both, that we have proof of both, and if that's been answered, then I can vote either way. But I want to make sure that we have insurance, and it's been proven to us that we have copies of both. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think at this point, I'm prepared to make a motion. I would move the council direct administration to update the regulation of parks, boulevards, and sidewalks bylaw A-203 to include the trails, taking into account the Trail 77 and Taber Riding Group contract.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brune?
I'll speak in favor of Charlie's motion there. I think the least we can do is try it out for a year. They have an agreement. I think the onus is on them to make sure it works and figure it out.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strauss?
Yes, Your Worship. I'm going to refer to the Medicine Hat bylaw number 2527, 5.1, use of horses. A person may allow a horse to be in any portion of a city park or recreational area that is designated as an environmental reserve, provided that the horse is not at any time upon a path or trail intended to the use of or capable of being used by pedestrians or cyclists. Just take those words into consideration. Medicine Hat does not allow them on the same pathway. It's in their bylaw.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been unusually quiet. I would say I'm speaking against the motion made by Councillor Firth, even though in my heart of hearts I kind of want to not, But I've got to admire and I've got to respect the work that the trail riders and the Trail Riding Association has done, and that you guys got together, that you guys had a bunch of meetings, that you people actually made an agreement, and are prepared to live with by that agreement. At the same time, I'm greatly concerned that horses and people on the same trails, and especially children, just do not work. And that's why, for safety reasons only, I'm speaking against the motion.
All right, thank you. Councillor Brune?
How do we handle it with pedestrians and bikers? Like if they hit each other? Do we make sure every pedestrian has insurance and every biker has insurance for that? By saying the group of bikers have insurance or the horse group has insurance, doesn't stop family going out and using the trail with no insurance. It's been like this since the coal mines were out there. People use these trails. They rode bikes, they walked, they rode horses. Now all of a sudden we have to make it all legalese and make it hard for a group that wants to work together to do a good job. So I'm still in favor of Carly's motion.
All right, just Councillor Firth, if I just add, I don't think the piece about insurance is covered in your motion. I'm speaking in favor of your motion, but would you accept a friendly amendment to add a piece about the insurance clarification in that same motion?
Sure, I would accept that friendly amendment.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, we do have a friendly amendment motion on the table. Councillor Chavez?
Can we have that motion reread back to us, please?
All right, Mr. Orwa?
Rian, can you reread the motion, please?
Hi there, just one moment. I have Councillor Firth pass the motion stating that Council directs administration to update the regulation of parks, boulevards, and sidewalks bylaw A-203 to include the trails and Trail 77 and rider group contract, with a friendly amendment from Mayor Prokop to include the insurance verification request.
All right, thank you. Once again, motion with a friendly amendment on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. All right, on to bylaws. Item 5.1, proposed automated voting system bylaw 10-2021. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, probably I'll call upon Ms. Vanham again just to complete this part of voting machines and tabulators. So this is now the bylaw to enforce this to be used as voting tabulator.
All right, thank you. Ms. Vanham.
Yes, good afternoon, Council, again. This is the bylaw portion of that, as Mr. Orwa has stated. So it is under your consideration for first, second, and third reading at this point in order to move forward with the project. So it's for your consideration in front of you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll start with the first motion that Council gives first reading to the proposed automated voting system bylaw 20-2021 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councillor Firth?
Sorry, I believe it's 10-2021.
Did I say something?
You said 20.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
I don't think that bylaw exists.
All right. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council gives second reading to the proposed automated voting system bylaw 10-2021 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council unanimously agrees to proceed to third and final reading of the proposed automated voting system bylaw 10-2021 at this meeting.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And the fourth required motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council gives third and final reading to the automated voting system bylaw 10-2021 at this meeting.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Becker, you have a question?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to item 5.2, proposed land use bylaw amendment, direct control bylaw number 2021. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, Ms. Monks will present that to council, please.
Ms. Monks.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council.
Good afternoon.
Administration is working to ensure that any changes to statutory plans and the land use bylaw are in place in order to move forward the manufactured housing community that council has been working on for several years. Planning has prepared, with consultation from the manufactured housing industry, a direct control district specific to the 60-acre parcel that council has obtained for affordable housing. The direct control district allows for development of the old condominium plan, and must be in place prior to subdivision occurring. The district itself is provided for council's review, as well as the proposed map amendment identifying the lands. The bylaw is available on the Planning Public Consultation website, and an advertisement is scheduled for this week's Tabor Times, as well as to be circulated to internal and external stakeholders and owners of land within 100 meters of the location. The public has been invited to comment and provide suggestions in regard to the direct control district directly to the Planning Department for consideration and potential implementation. At the April 12th regular meeting of council, a virtual public hearing will be held, and any comments or suggestions brought to council for consideration. Following that, council could potentially give second and third reading to bylaw 8-2021, dependent on discussion from the public hearing. At this time, administration would request that council give first reading to bylaw 8/2021 as presented in order to move forward with the process.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table? Or sorry, getting ahead of myself here. That's what's
that would be easy.
Required at some point, but just not yet. Councillor Garner.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to move forward and motion that council.
All right. So, go right ahead.
Sorry, I'll try that again. I make a motion that council gives first reading to land use amendment bylaw 8-2021.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Or Councillor Becker, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Ms. Monks. So this particular bylaw, of course, is in tandem with the Northwest Area Structure Plan proposed bylaw amendment. Is that correct?
That is correct. And just a note that on the next agenda, we'll ensure that they're switched around in so that we can approve one and then have that hierarchy of plans to follow through.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great. Thank you. Item 5.3, bylaw 9-2021, Northwest Area Structure Plan Amendment. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, Ms. Monks, proceed to give us the correlation there with the first one.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of Council. So in addition to the proposed land use bylaw amendment, the existing Northwest Area Structure Plan must also have a map amendment in order to proceed with the manufactured housing initiative. Currently, the 60 acres, as well as the 24 acres east of 50th Street, are included in the Meadows of Tabor concept plan that is currently in public consultation stage and will come forward to Council for adoption at the April 12th Council meeting. The Northwest Area Structure Plan deals only with the lands on the west side of 50th and changes the use from institutional recreational to residential to allow for the development of the manufactured housing. The lands on the east side of 50th Street are already identified in the Eureka Area Structure Plan as institutional recreational and will allow for development as recreational and school site as identified in the concept plan. So Bylaw 9-2021 is available on the Planning Public Consultation website, as is the Meadows of Tabor concept plan, which will form part of the Northwest Area Structure Plan. Advertising will be out Wednesday in the Tabor Times, as well as circulation being sent out to internal and external stakeholders and landowners within 100 meters of the site, so similar to the land use bylaw amendment. Administration will collect comments and suggestions for potential amendments to the documents. At the April 12th regular meeting of Council, a virtual public hearing will be held, and any comments or suggestions will be brought to Council for consideration. Following that, Council could then potentially give second and third reading to Bylaw 9-2021, dependent on discussion from that public hearing. At this time, Administration would request that Council give first reading to Bylaw 9-2021 as presented in order to move forward with the process.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you, Ms. Monks, for proceeding the way you are. I think that's the proper way to do it. You want to go to the higher one first, this Northwest Area Structure Plan, and then go down to the particular area that we're discussing in Bylaw 8, right? And I want to thank you for the work done, because I think it's been done very smoothly so far, and I appreciate that. And I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right,
Mr.
thank
Mayor.
you. You bet.
But I move that Council gives first reading to Bylaw 9-2021 as presented.
Okay, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Tams.
Mr. Mayor, can I request that we have a 5-minute break, please?
All right, just a 5-minute recess. All right. Motion on the table for a 5-minute recess. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. If we could reconvene the meeting, please. And move on to item 5.4, proposed dog control bylaw 2-2021. Mr. Irwa.
Thank you very much, His Worship. So before you is the proposed dog control bylaw, and this comes as a result of the collaboration between the town of Taber and Lopo Society. And I would like to pass over to Chief Abella to explain a few things and then take some questions.
All right, thank you, Chief Abella. Welcome.
Your Worship, members of council. Excuse me, my voice has just gone. It's not like me. So this bylaw has been in existence for quite some time. I think the last amendment was done 14 years ago, 13 years ago. We were asked to refresh the bylaw, have a look through it by town administration in order to provide our kind of input into what the bylaw might have moving forward. And just to let you know, most of the changes actually are just due to formatting. The town moved to a new format for bylaws, and we had to, so you'll see compared to the old one, some of them are numbers or the old ones were letters and now they're numbers. So that was most of the change. We added a few sections to the bylaw. One was that we defined a resident dog owner. We felt that was important. We also defined the community standards unit. It wasn't in the old bylaw, and of course, we've created a unit within the town responsible for that within the Taber Police Service that is now called that. We've also moved to a lifetime license for dogs instead of having a license every year. We think this will remove some of the red tape that occurs at the front counter in relation to yearly licensing requirements, and still meet our needs. We also added some sections to the animal impoundment section, and you'll see that we also increased fines and license fees to keep more in keeping with what is occurring as an industry standard in other communities in our area, as well as to account for the costs associated that we have with our relationship with the Lost Paws Society with housing dogs overnight. For example, that fee went up to, which we're invoiced $35 a night by the Lost Paws Society. And we'd like to recoup those from dog owners that allow their dogs to run at large. There's one section of the bylaw that some questions have been raised on specifically, and that is which we didn't touch. It's legacy writing or legacy information contained. But it's whether or not we should or should not include the breeds of dogs associated under the aggressive dog definition. So basically what happens right now is if we go to a complaint where there's been an aggressive dog, there's actually rules in place that say if it's this type of breed of dog, then it does not need a hearing through a committee to determine that it's dangerous. And as a result, the owner would have to take the actions that they need to undertake in order to, muzzle the dog or get insurance or make sure it's penned or things that when dogs are aggressive. There's been some contemplation that we should just remove that section with regards to identifying breed of dog, and just other bylaws have just called them aggressive dogs, and we'll have to strike a committee each time that occurs if it was a breed not included in that list. So I hope I explained that in such a way that it was easy to follow. But other than that, sir, it's as presented unless you have any specific questions.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship. So I know we could beat this to death here tonight, but I think the thing that's missing here is public consultation. And it would be my opinion that we need to have input from the public on their animals and put some input into this here. And so I would make a motion that we refer this back to administration to decide upon a format for public consultation before proceeding with this bylaw.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Well, I agree with that. I just had a question for Chief Abella. How common is breed-specific legislation?
So it does exist in other municipalities. I think it's been weaned out. Like they're not using it as much, but it still does exist.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
Yeah, I think if we could get rid of the breed of the dogs, identifying dogs by the breed, because that's deceiving too. I've got a little dog that'd take your leg off, but you wouldn't expect it. So
that's good to know.
But right. No, I think we definitely have to look at this a little harder. I've had numerous calls and texts. I'm sure other councillors have about this, so they're not happy. Mainly dog owners that are listed here. but
with breeds.
Yes, mainly them because they're being focused on this a bit with their breeds named. But I don't know. I think we got to get rid of the breeds in this, and just an aggressive dog is an aggressive dog. And the other big concern is who decides to put the dog down. Like, I think we form a committee of 3 people at large, a CAO and bylaw officer.
They get spoken to.
Yeah, but I think you need more than just person at large. I think you'd have someone qualified in with animals to be on that committee, such as a vet or someone that's very knowledgeable about dogs. So you got to be careful when you're going to put down someone's dog and
All right.
justify.
Thank you. Councillor Becker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did Councillor Stravas make a motion?
He did.
Thank you. So we speak to the motion only, please.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Speaking to the motion only, then I have no comment.
All right, thank you. We do Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I said that is because the very questions that are being asked, not related to the motion, are the ones that will come up. So I think it's entirely proper to speak to the motion only and let the chips fall where they may. Just as an aside, just as a comment, we all know that when it comes to horses and dogs, we better look really hard. I speak in favor of the motion.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure what it was. What was the motion?
Can we have that reread back to us?
Just to move forward with administration
Public
reviewing it or
consultation,
something? Public consultation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr.
Thanks.
Roy. Just for Chief Bell's benefit, we just have that motion.
Did you want
You
the
sure?
motion read?
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. On to item 5.5, proposed fee bylaw. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I can see Ms. DeBona is already there to explain to council the adjustments I want to make in the fee bylaw.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Bona.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
So, Council has previously adopted Fee Bylaw 7-2021. Administration has drafted a new Fee Bylaw 11-2021, which has 2 updates to it, which are highlighted for your review. The first change is in Schedule A for recreation services, which is addition under the program section. For the farmers market, the vendors have the choice of purchasing an additional table fee for $170 instead of the standard $200 per table. So that's a 15% savings for them. And then the second change is in Schedule E for utilities under the garbage and residential sections for the additional 120-liter waste collection cart for $10 per month as per your resolution 66-2021.
Great. Thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Towns.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions. They're just doing what we instructed them. I'd like to make the first motion that council gives first reading to fee bylaw 11-2021 at this meeting.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Furman.
I was just also going to make the motion.
All right.
No comment.
Perfect. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the second motion. Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council give second reading to fee bylaw 11-2021 at this meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the third motion required. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council unanimously agrees to proceed to third and final reading to bylaw number 11-2021 at this meeting.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Mr. Mayor, at this time I'm prepared to make the motion that council gives third and final reading to fee bylaw 11-2021 at this meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Speaking in favor of motion, of course, but I just hope we're as successful this year as we were last year with the farmers market. I've had nothing but praise from lots of colonies and that they're asking if we're doing it again. So job well done last year. So hopefully we can follow that.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Andy.
Item 5.6, proposed ATCO franchise fee agreement. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Andy.
Mr. Roa.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope we'll be able to go over this one based on the concept of time for the delegation. But this particular area, the franchise agreement is always every 10 years. It's a very long process. It started last year. So everything has gone through Alberta Utility Commission and then back to ATCO. So it came back to us, it was advertised, and there's no appeal. So it's moving forward. So we're just requesting council to go through the second and the third reading so that we can send it back to ATCO and then eventually to Utility Commission to formalize the franchise.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Tams?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions, and I thank administration, and I know it's a lot of work to go through this, but I would like to move that council give second reading to ATCO Finance Agreement Bylaw 16-2020.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? Councillor Beckley?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like administration to assure council that the funding from the, what is it called, AMMSC something, is indeed in place.
Funding from where? Could you repeat the question?
The contribution from the grant funding regarding this particular project, it's in place, correct?
Councillor Beckering, I think you're one agenda item ahead.
Am I?
I think this is ATCO franchise agreement.
Oh! Sorry, guys.
Okay, that's all right. All right.
Slow down.
He doesn't have any questions.
We do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Second to make the second and third reading motion, Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to ATCO Franchise Agreement Bylaw 16-2020.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
That was third, right? We read it.
All right. On to item 6.1, combined heat and project power. Mr. Orwell.
Yes, I'll just let Ms. Olstrap to run with this one here. Consider the time 5 o'clock we'll be having delegation. So.
Okay, we'll make it fast. Good afternoon again, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I do believe I have Carolyn on the phone from ATCO Gas with us too. Just on there if there's any questions. So as you're aware from the information in your package, administration is looking at entering an agreement with ATCO for the installation of the combined heat power system at the Aquafund Center, with funds including $404,250 to be received from the Municipal Climate Change Action Center grant and $151,750 from the 2021 capital reserves. There is a little bit of a slideshow. It's just under that study. Just if there was any questions on why to use combined heat and power. So combined heat power technology uses low cost natural gas to generate heat and electricity on site, capturing and reusing excess thermal energy to produce heat used within the facility. The next slide kind of shows you how the CHP uses the natural gas to produce electricity for the facility. And another lovely picture on just the operations there. And then the final one, I was going to be quick. Where this is going to be installed would be outside the pool. There'll be a C-can to the south of the building, and then they'll tie into the building from there. So they'll give us a cement pad with a C-can, put the CHP unit inside, and away we roll.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now the question that I want to ask. You said, Ms. Ostrup, that is to be received, so it has not been received as yet, the $404,000 from the Municipal Climate Change Action Center?
We have received it, the offer letter, and it has been signed by Dawn. December 1st, I believe, is when November.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bruin?
Just a question. Is the Brooks Center, do they use the same system for the heat exchange? I can't remember the name of the complex.
I believe Brooks was one of them. Yes, so the Lakeside Leisure Center is one of them that does have it that ATCO has installed.
So I believe when we went on the tour, we noted that, and it was quite impressive. Yep. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council approves the single source justification for the combined heat and power project and directs the mayor and CAO to sign the agreement with ATCO for the installation of the combined heat power system at the Aquafund Center in the amount of $556,000 with funds to come from the 2021 capital budget.
Thank you. Mr. Scheer, you had a question?
Just one thing that was missed on the project, and I apologize for that, is a contingency fund. There is none. Okay, so we'd ask that council agrees to add $25,000 as a contingency fund to the project with funds to come from the capital reserves.
All right, so just to clarify, you do need that contingency?
Yes, we
you
do.
do. I see. Okay, all right.
Yes.
So with that, you're prepared to take that friendly amendment?
Actually, Mr. Scheer cannot make a friendly amendment, but I can.
All right, sure, sorry.
Would you accept that?
Yeah, can I read it? I accept the friendly amendment.
Great, thank you, Councillor Towns. Councillor Becker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the ATCO lady on the phone?
Carolyn, are you on the phone with us?
No, it's Minister Hunter.
Okay, so she's not on the phone.
I am on the phone.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question for you, ma'am, and you might not be able to answer it, but I'm going to attempt anyway. What's your forecast? Because this is very much dependent upon natural gas prices in the future, of course. What's your forecast, long range? Are you guys locked in for 20 years or what?
That is a very difficult question to answer because the forecast depends on how governments apply taxes, etc. Right? We can't provide a forecast. We have our own internal forecast of where we think the world is going, but we can't provide a customer with a forecast. And further to that, it's not only the price of natural gas, but it's the price of electricity as well. Because what you're doing is you're producing your own electricity. So where you really get the savings is you're not having to buy that grid electricity. You're producing your own.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
I think that was a very good question, Councillor Garner. I remember years ago when on the farm, all the pumping, I was thinking Garth Garner. Yeah, Councillor Beckering. Years ago on the farm, the price of natural gas shot up so high that everyone switched to electricity, and it was a boom for the electrical industry. So I am a little concerned about the price of natural gas. When more people start converting, the coal plants are converted to natural gas, we may see quite an increase in price.
Thank you. Mr. Roa.
Yes, just to answer Councillor Beckering's question. So we've just signed a form here with MSC just about last week. So we are doing that aggregation again, where all municipalities go in as a pool and they look for the best price that they can give municipalities. So we should be able to get something here in the distant future here, and we'll share it with council, the actual prices of natural gas.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Orr. But that is only a 5-year, I believe, AMSC?
Well, they've given us up to 2024, but we want to see how it looks or what exactly they're going to get from the market.
Very much, sir.
All right, thank you. We do have a friendly amendment motion on the table. Councillor Chavez.
Just, Your Worship, I have a question for our ATCO Gas representative. Is it Carolyn, I believe? And that's concerning the carbon tax. So when we purchase the natural gas, we're going to be paying on that, the carbon tax, and then are we going to be paying on generating our own electricity carbon tax as well? Is that, or do we have to ask that to his Mr. What's his fellow down south there, Trudeau?
Mr. Trudeau down south. I thought Mr. Trudeau was to the east.
Oh, well, it could be the east, wherever he is. Who knows?
There will be no carbon tax for you generating your own electricity. So there would not be a carbon tax per kilowatt hour of electricity produced by you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Once again, we have a motion with a friendly amendment on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. And now we are due for delegation. I believe I'd have to have a motion to move to delegations for 5 p.m. Councillor Thames?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we skip to 7.1 for delegations with the Honourable Minister Grant Hunter, please.
All right, we'll do. We can move to delegations and welcome Minister Grant Hunter with us tonight.
It was motion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Sorry, we do have a motion
Thank
on the
you.
table. Sorry, Minister Hunter. Just 1 second. Have to deal with the motion. We do have a motion on the table to move to the delegation requirement. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you again. Once again, Mr. Hunter. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we look forward to your presentation.
Good to be virtually with you. So when you say presentation now, from what I understand, we're going to talk a little bit about some of your questions. Would you like me to just talk a bit about the budget and about some of the things that have transpired in the government, or would you like just to go to questions and I can answer those?
I think just the basic.
Come and chat with you about that, but
yeah, I think just the basic overview of what your ask was for to present tonight, and then probably go through a question and answer format as well.
Sure. Well, I wanted to just talk a bit about some of the concerns I've been hearing from some of the other municipalities. The concerns, obviously, one of the concerns was about the MSI allocation. And so I wanted to kind of explain that to you. The first is that with the MSI, there is, so basically in budget 2021-22, we provided an average of about $722 million in terms of the MSI. Now that's considerably lower than what was provided for in 2020-21. And the reason why that is because, first of all, we kept the allocation of over $900 million, $963 million in 2020-21, because we wanted to be able to provide that countercyclical spending for municipalities. And in Treasury Board, I fought to make sure that we tried to keep the money flowing directly to municipalities in the form of MSI versus another program. And I know that every jurisdiction throughout the world is doing countercyclical spending right now, but I didn't want to have another program that municipalities would have to figure out, and it'd be obviously more bureaucracy to administer. Plus, on over and above the $963 million, we added another $500 million that we gave to municipalities for the purpose of that countercyclical spend. So what I wanted to say to you is that if you take into consideration that extra $500 million that was provided, that puts us at a 4-year average of about $888 million that's going out to MSI. We always stated that the money wasn't just going to be extra money that we're going to be pumping in. It was going to be taken out from those out years. So from the out years of our 4-year mandate, we were going to be taking some of that money out and putting it into the front end so that spend could happen. So I just wanted to explain to you how that MSI is working, so that you can, if you've got questions about it, I'd be willing to answer those. The other thing I wanted to talk about is we really tried to focus this budget on providing health care to Albertans, and to trying to make sure that we had some growth opportunities as well. So you've seen down in southern Alberta where the value proposition that I provided to Treasury Board was that we have the ability to be able to increase agri-food processing in that quarter between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat if we get that infrastructure that we need. So we've got, we announced already the $150 million twinning of Highway 3 between Taber and Burdett. We've announced a major irrigation increase of over $850 million to increase 206,000 irrigated acres. And we haven't announced yet the specifics on that, about where they are. Some people know some stuff, but we haven't made the announcements yet. That will come out fairly quickly. We've got a bill that had to go through. Minister Dreeshen with Agriculture and Forestry had to put together a bill that really kind of established what Canadian infrastructure bank was looking for to make sure that they felt comfortable with the money they're going to be putting in. So that's what we've been waiting on. That's been introduced in the House, and that should be able to go through fairly quickly. So I'm hoping that mid-spring we'll be able to make a fairly big announcement that will affect all of southern Alberta. It's the budget is over $18 billion of deficit financing. Two straight years of deficit financing. We're hoping that we'll see a fairly quick rebound, which is what I think what most of the banks are saying, is that we're looking at to have one of the highest rebounds in all the provinces of Canada, that anywhere between 6.4 to 6.5% this year. So there are things that are looking good. We continue to see investment down in southern Alberta from different projects of whether they're wind or solar, because of the type of system we have, demand energy utility system. So I think that we've got lots of good things. We've got some companies that are agri-food processing companies that I've been able to speak with, and we set up a think tank to be able to do some networking and to chat about how we can actually get these guys to come in. If COVID would just leave us, then we could get these guys to fly up and start showing them around our beautiful part of the country. So we're waiting for COVID to wrap up, and then we can start bringing these guys up and I guess providing the value proposition to them. With that, I'm more than willing to take any questions that you have.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hunter, welcome, sir. This is Councillor Beckering. I have a COVID-related question. I'm led to believe that some of the Southeast MLAs, including yourself, sir, made an attempt to Cabinet to regionalize restriction easing of the COVID restrictions. Is there any truth to that, and are you still attempting that project?
Yes, there is truth to that. I will say that as a minister, I can't come out in public and put an op-ed in the paper because it's not government policy. So, but I advocate on a regular basis for a regional approach. My riding has very few active cases. We have low mortality rates. Lethbridge right now is going through a major spike. But again, with these things, with coronavirus, that's what happens. It'll spike up in a certain area and then it'll come back down again. Calgary and Edmonton were the big hot spots, and they spiked up and they came back down again. Northern Alberta, just before Lethbridge was hit, it spiked up really high and then came back down. If you take a look at some of the graphs, you'll see that it actually spikes up fairly quickly and comes down fairly quickly. So we presented to Dr. Hinshaw, the Premier, and Minister Shandro, the Health Minister, the idea that that regional approach was what we had before the November 24th, and that our constituents in rural Alberta were quite happy about that. We should go back to it. They have chosen not to go that way. I'm not happy about it. I've done everything I can to try to convince them of the efficacy of that, but they are convinced that they're right on this. So I can't say anything else other than the reality is I continue to advocate for a regional approach. I continue to advocate to move to a system where we can start trusting Albertans again and allow them to be able to use self-control. In certain areas where there's hotspots, yes, you might have to have some kind of controls and restrictions, but I just don't think what we've done certainly hasn't sold in rural Alberta. This has really been a rural versus urban divide on this.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising for Minister Hunter? Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Mr. Hunter. I'd like to thank you for all the help you did with us on Highway 320. We're very excited down here to see that happening, and the irrigation announcement is fantastic. So it looks really good for the South Country here. So thank you for what you've done on that.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure. Exactly. It was great.
Any other questions or MSI related questions as well? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Minister Hunter, regarding MSI, if I read correctly, that for next year we're being cut back 25%. Is that correct, sir?
Well, now, if you take a look at it, if you average it over the 3 years starting from 2021 on, then it looks like over the 3 years it's a decrease of 25%. If you average it from 2020 on, which is when we actually started the process, you'll see that there was actually not much of a decrease just because we added an extra $500 million to the MSI. So I guess it depends upon data points where you want to. Yes, if someone says to you over the next 3 years there's going to be a decrease by 25% average, they're right. But if you take it over the 4 years, which is what we, when we got into this pickle with the economic decline and COVID-19, you'll see that we're actually average around $888 million, not the $722 million. Now, I will say this though, we had talked about moving to a new framework, the Local Government Fiscal Framework Act, Fiscal Framework, and that has been pushed out to 24-25 just because of the concerns about being able to move into a new program while we're trying to be able to get out of this economic turmoil that we're in. So when that starts, there will be a baseline funding of $722 million. That's what we're committing to.
All right, thank you. Mr. Orwa, I just wondered if, by chance, you have any questions related from the administrative and/or finance perspective for Minister Hunter.
No, actually, I've just been looking at the trend of MSI from 2018, and definitely what Mr. Hunter has explained there makes a lot of sense, because when you look at it over the next 3 years from what I've been looking at the website, yes, it is a 25% decrease. So at this point, we don't have any question, but just looking at the trend as it comes through from the government.
All right, perfect, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, with that, thank you so much, Minister Hunter, for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing in person sometime sooner than later.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. All right, someone prepared to make a motion to accept that as information. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council accepts the information provided by Honourable Minister Grant Hunter, MLA Taber-Warner, for information purposes.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving back to item 6.2, economic relief consideration, Orban Holdings Limited. Mr. Orwa?
Yes, His Worship, this is yet another waiver request that came through, and I would like to request Ms. Van Ham to explain this to Council.
Thank you. Ms. Van Ham?
So Mr. Orban has requested waiver of his rent for the season, as he was not able to be open for very long at all. And council has requested that if people are making those types of wishes known, that they make their wishes known in writing. So you'll see Mr. Orban's correspondence attached to your agenda item. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make a motion that Council waives the Orban Holdings Limited lease payments for September 2020 and December 2020 due to the current COVID-19 pandemic restrictions in place, as directed by the provincial government and Alberta Health Services, and the cumulative financial losses endured related to the continued and reinstated COVID-19 pandemic facility and activity closures. Oh, that's a mouthful.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6.3, busking information. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, I will call upon Ms. Allred to explain to us what's going on out there. Is it some local entertainment?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Allred.
Hello, everyone. The Arts and Heritage Committee has requested that we bring the busking motion to Council for review. Currently, busking can be approved through a special event application and approval of the CAO. We are planning on including busking in many of our town-run events this year, including farmers markets, Canada Day, the barbecue contest, and culture days. There are many considerations to make with regards to busking. This year in particular, as we recover from COVID-19, there are extra considerations to make. Music, especially singing, are currently not allowed as they do pose a higher risk of transmission, as well as monitoring the gathering size and social distancing. Other considerations include business and sidewalk access, performers' abilities, monitoring for family-friendly content, scheduling, questions such as, is a musician allowed to sell other items such as T-shirts and CDs, or is amplification allowed? Policing and what types of performers are allowed, and of course, insurances and liability requirements for both the town and the performer will need to be addressed. In speaking with some other local municipalities, some do not allow busking as they do classify it as panhandling, which in the Taber Community Standards Bylaw, it states that no person shall engage in panhandling in any public place, while other municipalities don't have policies, procedures, or bylaws in place either way. One shared that they do have a guy who does it often and they've never had a problem and he's been their only one that has ever asked, while another shared that they have two who have tried and both have had to be removed for causing public disturbances. Administration would recommend that we include busking in our town-run events for 2021, allowing us to gauge community interest and performer interest, research applicable policies and procedures, talk to other municipalities who have been successful, and review it again at the second council meeting in March of 2022. Thank you. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, thank you, Ms. Allred, for your presentation. Councillor Brune.
Just some concerns. Would this be at every town event, like farmers market? They'd be allowed to have busking there, and like any town event, you'd allow busking.
We are hoping to, yes.
So farmers market, they'd
Yes.
be allowed. But would they not have to pay the same fee as the people with the tables there then?
That is a very good question that we will look into.
That's the problem. These guys have they're not investing in anything. They're just throwing a hat out or however
Right.
it works. So I have some concerns about it because I think it may be robbing from other vendors that paid to be there. And
Absolutely.
So they're not selling anything other than just providing entertainment for the people that are there. So I believe our hopes would be give them an area or two that they can come utilize that space for an hour and we can kind of keep them rolling, or maybe just one Thursday there's two people.
do you limit that to so many, or would they have to apply for a permit? Or
I think that we would set up a schedule and have people apply so that we can have it. We can monitor it, of course, and we can also have set times for them to play.
sorry, I'm carrying on here, but would it be just limited to like the Confederation Park, or would you consider downtown area?
Depending on the event. For farmers market, we could definitely consider downtown as well, but for the most part, it would depend on the event.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, it's the busking, they put their hat out of their guitar case or whatever, and if somebody walks by and chooses to throw in a loony or a toonie, so be it. That's fine. That's totally accepted and expected, right? Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion at this time that council directs administration to include busking at town-run events for 2021, allowing administration to gauge the community and performer interest, research applicable policies and procedures, and review again at the second meeting in March 2022.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Brune.
One more question, Mr. Mayor. Have the police been consulted about this, like their thoughts on the busking?
We did ask, and they said that there wasn't any history with it, and there wasn't any specific. I could go back to my email and check on that.
Oh, that's right, because if there is a problem, they'll be called, right?
Absolutely.
And so it may,
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 6.4, department reports. I will go through them individually. If you have any questions, please let me know accordingly. First one, Engineering and Public Works Department report. Treatment Facilities Department report. Recreation report. Administrative Service report. Fire Department report. Human Resources report. Plan and Economic Development report. Finance Department report. Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question about the Finance Department report. It said there was a comment about upgrade and batch exchange server to mitigate the Hafnium attack. Somebody tell me what the Hafnium attack is.
All right, thank you. Mr. Orwa.
Go ahead. I know you're laughing.
Good afternoon, Your Worship.
Good afternoon.
So recently, at the beginning of March, there was a major attack on all mail servers from Exchange. Apparently, hackers found a gap into email servers, and Microsoft released a security update right away. So we had to jump in and work on a late night to make sure our server is secure and mitigate the risk.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Al. All right, and the last CAO reports. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for the CEO report. It says, working with MPE Engineering on the Blood Tribe consultation on the East Industrial Stormwater Project wetlands. Could you explain how they tie in with each other, please?
Thank you, Mr. Scher.
With any of the ICIP funding, we have to have Indigenous consultations, and they have to look at what we're doing and make sure that there's nothing that impacts their heritage. So we're just going through that process.
Thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suspected that, sir. I just wanted to get it clarified because it's crazy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No other questions? Someone make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council accepts the department reports for information.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've attended all of the meetings I'm required to attend, including the Intermunicipal Development Plan public hearing and South Grove Strategic Planning meeting.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, nothing to report other than I attended the meetings I was required to do.
Thank you. Councillor Thames.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor, other than I've attended all the meetings I have to, and things are shaping up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Not much to report. I've attended all the required meetings that I need to be at, and that would be my report.
Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship, just want to put a reminder out there that the AGM for the Taber and District Handybus Association will be held on March 31st, 5:30 p.m. at the Taber Special Needs building, so that anybody interested in transportation for the handy bus, you would be more than welcome to come and have some input.
What was that time again, Joel?
5:30, March 31st, Taber Special Needs.
All right, thank you.
And, if you could let them know you're coming, in case they get a larger turnout, then we would move it to the Civic Center or a larger place, but that would be greatly appreciated. Just send, you can either, Councillor Firth or myself, you could send an email to us and let us know when we will afford them, or right directly to them over there.
Thank you. Councillor Brew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've attended all the meetings I've been required to attend, and Highway 3, Police Commission and whatnot. Everything's going well, I think, and looking forward for this COVID to be over.
All right, thank you. And for myself, I've attended a number of meetings in person and or virtual required, dealing with a number of document and contract-related signings as per any given month, as well as a number of consultation sessions with our co-CEOs, and things are going well in that regard as well with our entire administration and town staff. So thank you so much for all your many efforts. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to accept the reports as presented. Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council accepts the mayor and councillor reports for information.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great. Thank you. Item 6.6, standing item council requests. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the opportunity for council to give administration any direction or any question they might have And I think on the board there you can see those are the outstanding items that are there, but all of them are in progress.
All right, thank you. Any standing item requests whatsoever? I have an ask related to our entertainment and the use of our stage. We have had some brief discussion about this in the past, but I'm wondering, I know there's a charge process and a booking process. The booking seems to be completely appropriate and well run in that regard. But I had a number of complaints and or concerns about the charging for the use of the stage. And I guess my question is, and or comment, is that the stage was donated by the Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of community use. And I have no problem, or in all fairness, to charge for the use of the stage if there's anybody putting on some kind of a show and actually making some money selling tickets to that event. But anybody that's doing a Saturday or Sunday afternoon get together, I don't know that it's really fair and reasonable to charge those individuals for that. And that's actually a deterrent, because there's many that would make use of the stage more often if we were not charging. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility, and or if the council's supportive of that particular change with our fee structure there for use without any money changing hands, and just for sheer enjoyment. Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with most part of what you're saying. I think the purpose of the charging was to kind of control who had use of the stage so you wouldn't have groups fighting over it. But I'd like not to charge for it and just be booked. So if someone wants to use it for a Saturday afternoon, it can be booked for that. The charge is really minor and irrelevant really to the town. People using it, it's great to see people out there. I'd like to see it used more. So.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Firth?
Mr. Mayor, I would also be in favor of more people being able to use the stage. My only question was to administration. Is there any cost associated with people using the stage?
Go ahead.
Is there any cost associated? So when somebody uses the stage, does it cost the town of Taber in any way?
So for electricity, because there's electricity out there, we do charge $77.50 for it looks like the day for that cost, and just for the stage per hour, it looks like it's $20.75 as per the fee bylaw.
All right, thank you, Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship. We'd like to have more use there, but I think a fee in place regulates, because you're going to have people that, all of a sudden they want to use it. Then the last minute is, we need electricity, or we need this or something. So you've got to have some control measures, and that fee structure will give you that control measure of that. I'm in favor of leaving it just the way it is rather than adjusting that now.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Bruin?
Do we enforce it? I guess, I don't know who I'd ask, but do we enforce if we see kids jumping around on the stage on a Sunday or a group there? Do we say, hey, if you got a permit, did you buy this?
I don't believe so, no. It's more for the bigger user groups, the fitness, people that like to use the stage as well.
That was a big hit too this past summer, wasn't it? There was quite a bit of that use.
So maybe I'll let you speak first.
So part of the cost is for staff to maintain the equipment, staff to clean it after use, things like that too. It's not just electricity, it's cleaning and maintenance.
All right, thank you. Like I said, I see the deterrent for public use because of that, for the average half a dozen people that want to put on a little Saturday afternoon get together and have done so, but it's that $80 is a deterrent. There's no doubt. Councillor Garner.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think there's many performers that will go and book that stage and perform for 8 hours straight. And I think that the hourly cost is actually pretty reasonable when you figure in the electricity costs and then possibly coming in afterwards and pressure washing that stage off or cleaning it up. I think we're probably at a break-even point, if that. So $77 for the day breaks down to what, $9 an hour, something like that?
I don't know exactly, but
I don't think it's cost prohibitive, because a lot of groups or bands or individuals will bring an amp, and it is a lot more convenient to plug into our power than to bring a Honda generator with you.
Well, I think you were approached the same as I was about this same concern, and as I said, it's a deterrent for individuals having to pay for that, and that to me is going against a bit about what the chamber was looking for the maximum usage possible there. So why not help these people out a little bit and not charge in that regard? And if they're making money at an event or fitness situation, that's a different story. But if they're simply there for pure entertainment and having to book it, I think that would go a long ways and certainly encourage more use of the facility as was intended. Any other comments, questions? All right. Councilor Broom?
I'd like to entertain a motion on the stage. I'd like to move that town council continues with the booking program, but discontinues the fees.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Firth.
Councillor Bryn, would you consider a friendly amendment to continue with the fees on a break-even basis?
That would be hard to, because how do you know? I'm on board with the mayor here that we want to. Summer's going to be a long summer, nothing to do because of this COVID, and if we can get people out on the stage in the park, I think it's great.
All right, thank you, Councillor Chavez.
So perhaps your worship, council should donate some time and do some of the cleanup afterwards if we pass this motion, so that administration doesn't have to go and clean up after people when they leave a mess.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin. And I guess to your speaking in favor of your motion, just an amendment related to specifying.
I'll have to reject that amendment because I don't think it would be possible to do that. So
you didn't hear my amendment.
Well, I thought you were talking about cars.
No.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I think you clarified that. I'm just talking about from
sorry.
my perspective. Speaking in favor of your motion originally, to clarify that it only includes individuals or groups that are not making any money as a result.
It'd probably
of their
be wise to
entertainment.
not for profit,
Right.
non-profit group.
Yes.
But I think the booking's important just so we have some control and stop.
Yep, I said that
people
right out of the
trying
gate.
to using at the same time.
For sure. All right. So there is a friendly amendment motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. Any other standing item requests? All right. With that, we've taken care of our delegations. And all that's left is media inquiries. Mr. Orwa?
No media inquiries today.
All right, thank you. With that, a motion to move into closed session with a 10-minute recess to reconvene. Councilor Thames.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried now. Thank you.